Hello everybody and welcome to DPW 2023 in Amsterdam, the most influential tech event in procurement. This is the 5th edition already. My name is Emily Zipson and I'm excited to be here to learn from this ever so fast growing industry. In a moment, I'll be speaking with several special guests to hear all about their latest developments, learnings and ideas for the future. Let's get started. So up next, I'd like to introduce two guests at the table. The Global Director of Indirect Procurement at Amplifon, that is Paolo Pasi, and SpendHQ's Chief Product Officer, Pierre Laprée. Welcome, gentlemen.
Pleasure to be here.
How are you feeling?
Good. Lots of energy in this conference.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I can imagine. So could you please share with the viewers what drives you and your businesses forth?
At SpendHQ, we are a procurement analytics, spend intelligence, and performance management solution. So what drives us is really to help our client, the procurement organizations of large companies, to achieve more performance, get better visibility on their spend, to ultimately drive more value to the business, both on the bottom line, but also on the non-financial aspects around ESG, diversity, and everything that actually matters to the business. We really want to help procurement people position themselves as innovator and value drivers for their companies.
Right. Does this sound familiar?
Absolutely. Since I joined my current role, I've been focusing on a clear transformation from a reactive purchasing team into a strategic sourcing function. And that has been my strategy, which is set up very clearly within the company. And of course, technology and what Pierre is relating to, it's essential for the journey.
Great. So Pierre, how can technology reinforce the position of procurement to deliver value to the company?
There are many aspects to that. The first one is focused on the inside of the procurement organization. Technology can help structure the processes, the approach of a procurement team. It's basically about supporting the buyers and the procurement team in their day-to-day work. It's how do we ensure that the processes are repeatable, that the way the team works is common and consistent between teams, operations, geographies. And that's a key thing that technology can help do. That's also adding productivity and insights. It's how can technology find patterns in the data that would not be evident to the untrained eye or to the regular buyer. So it's really about making the life of the procurement people easier, better, more structured. So that's the first aspect that is looking inside the procurement function. But there is also another aspect on how can procurement convey the value they're driving. And when you see procurement as an interface between the inside of the company and the outside market, it's critical that procurement can articulate very clearly the value they derive. That is aligning with finance on the financial performance. How do we help drive the bottom line? How do we possibly help the top line of the company? And so here the technology helps bring auditability, governance, and transparency into these numbers. But it's also helping the company understand what are the other impact drivers that procurement can bring. It's good to run tender and save money, but it's even better if it can help reduce the carbon footprint or if you can direct the spend to more diverse suppliers. So making this visible is the only way for procurement to shine. But not to shine just out of ego, but to shine because, you want to educate, you want to raise awareness on the fact that these are important topics and you need to dedicate time to that. So it's basically building the business case for the function.
From the inside and from the outside.
Exactly.
Now, Paolo, what are the main stakes of your procurement functions and what is the problem you try to solve with technology?
The first problem we were trying to solve when I joined the company was about the performance management tracking. Managing a complex functional performance with an old-style spreadsheet has proved to be a significant challenge for the team and for the company. Therefore, we wanted to implement a technology whereby we could get a 24/7 dashboard on how our performance was delivering in terms of quarterly impact, in terms of category, in terms of geography, in terms of P&L or balance sheets or rent.
Was that new?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That was new in the company, and what we have achieved now is that we are in control of our numbers. The numbers we share with the business are reliable, meaning our reputation in the company is much stronger than before. And ultimately, with this, we drove also a cultural transformation. We have installed a culture of accountability and a culture of personal impact that is really now the DNA of the way we operate. In essence, we make tech work.
Wow, that's very broad.
Absolutely. This is, I think, a good example how technology can really impact a huge portion of your business.
So Paolo, we've seen that technology has an impact on procurement contributions to the organization. Now, how is this recognized by the stakeholders and in particular finance?
For us, the onboarding of finance has been a key element of the journey. We have onboarded finance understanding what were their needs, what were their concerns, but also how could technology help them in better reporting and tracking performance.
Right.
At the end, we created interdependency between the two functions, removing silos and differences, practically creating a new language in the company, which was now based on performance management.
Pierre, is that typical?
So that's typical of best practices that we see on the market, this alignment between procurement and finance on recognizing the performance. All too often you hear in the procurement domain that people don't believe in the savings. But it's just that these organizations don't align with finance on common language, common definitions, and on proper governance. So what we're seeing here is really best in class, and ultimately savings, if they are reasonable, of course, are the fuel of the procurement department. So aligning with finance is absolutely critical because then finance can leverage this information. When Paolo reports to the finance department the contribution we expect for the next 6, 12, 18 months, finance can take this into account and plan accordingly. So it's this continuous feedback loop between the two functions that will help finance better forecast and ultimately better drive the business.
Right, I see you nodding.
No, absolutely. As I said, it's absolutely a key interdependency between the two words. Now we have a single source of truth, which is used to report our performance at every level of the organization. It is used across the organization from the country controller to the CFO. So it's really widely adopted and it's a common language across the business.
Fantastic. Can you share concrete outcomes that you obtained after implementing procurement performance management?
Yeah, so now we are in a situation where all the function is using this technology. So we have a full adoption in terms of global procurement team. And as I said, we have now the ability to monitor and to phase our performance according to the business needs. Maybe without getting into the details, but I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
In Amplifon, our indirect performance is included in the P&L of a country. So I need to be able to monitor every month, every quarter, how I'm dealing with that performance.
Right.
If I don't do, the P&L of a business is at risk. So performance becomes a key indicator and a key point to measure.
And does that resonate?
Completely. Too often procurement has been seen as a cost killer, but there's a lot more to procurement than just getting the cost down. And that's what exactly Paolo is doing. It's really about helping procurement deliver an impact and make it visible and make it easy to understand, because it drives value for the company. All those things that Paolo is talking about means that the company as a whole will be performing better. And that's very important for a company to be profitable, of course, but also to be efficient. And I guess this is where procurement can make a difference. So that's a common theme we see around our clients. The other aspect that we see on the market and that echoes somehow to that is that's an important step, but step number one, because there are also other value drivers, as I shared earlier, around impacting ESG, around impacting innovation, around impacting the top line. We see the more mature clients where procurement can actually influence the revenue generating activities of the company. And that's major because you're not only improving the bottom line, but also the top line. And that's a double whammy that brings a lot of value to the organization. So clearly getting this clear vision on performance to sell the business case of procurement, making sure that you know where you are every time, will unlock a lot of other conversations where procurement can add tremendous value to the organization.
Yeah. If we take a giant leap forward, like say 3 years ahead, what do you foresee?
That's a good question. What we're seeing, and that's what we're working on the technology side at SpendHQ, is how can we offload the buyer of the least interesting tasks? How can we automate a lot of the things? And on the spend intelligence side of the product, we help our client generate a lot of insights. So it's helping them surface new patterns, new initiatives that we see from the spend based on all the spend we analyze. The goal is to have a pipeline of initiative that constantly replenishes itself.
Right.
So it's going from a yearly exercise of identifying the tender planning to having an ongoing, continuous iteration on your spend to make it better for the company. So this aspect of generating more insights that can be translated into actions to deliver results, that's for us one of the key topics we're working on for the next 3 years.
Exciting. Now back to DPW 2023, where the main theme is make tech work. What makes tech work for you? Paolo?
I think for me it's the simplicity and the digestion capacity. I think organizations should always look at how much an organization can digest in terms of change, and understanding that, sizing and timing the right steps. That's what we did at Amplifon, where we were not driven by speed. We were not driven by moving from 0 to hero. We were looking at making incremental small steps in our technology roadmap. And that's, I think, has been the key winning factor.
Thank you. And for you?
There are multiple factors, but I think that from our perspective as a software vendor is how can we accommodate the unique needs of our clients, but with understanding that they are not necessarily special. So there are good practices in procurement, and that's how we can help our clients, is by helping them drive those small or big changes, depending on where they are, through the best practices we embed in our software. So having this ability to change and drive best practices is one thing on how we make tech work. And the other thing is adoption. So Paolo mentioned this adoption. It's critical. Too many companies invest in what we call shelfware, software that remains on the shelf and is never used. You make tech work when you make people use the technology, and for that, you need to speak their language. So when tech is more relatable to the end user, that's when tech works.
Thanks. I'm sure we could talk much longer, but time is up, unfortunately. Thank you so much, Paolo and Pierre, for this conversation. And for you viewers, thank you so much for tuning in and watching, and bye-bye for now.